Having described the ideal city, aristocracy ruled by philosopher kings, Plato now traces its inevitable decline. Books 8 and 9 present a taxonomy of regimes and soul types, showing how each form of government emerges from the corruption of the previous one. This isn't just political science. For each regime type, Plato describes a corresponding individual soul type. The structure of the city mirrors the structure of the soul. As cities degenerate, so do the souls of individuals who live in them. Why does even the ideal city decline? Plato suggests it's almost mathematically inevitable. The rulers use a complex mathematical formula to determine the optimal times for mating to produce the best offspring. But eventually, they'll make errors in these calculations. The wrong people will become guardians. People unsuited to rule will gain power. Once the guardian class includes those who lack true philosophical nature, decline begins. The first degeneration produces Timocracy, ruled by those who seek honor and glory rather than wisdom. How does this happen? The children of philosopher kings are supposed to be educated properly, but imagine a scenario. A young man's father is a true philosopher king, but his mother and servants tell him his father is too unworldly, not concerned enough with wealth and status. They encourage him toward more conventional ambitions. This young man develops a split character. Part of him respects his father's wisdom. Part of him desires the wealth and honor his mother and servants value. Eventually, the spirited part of his soul, the part seeking honor and recognition, wins out over reason. He becomes timocratic, ruled by love of honor rather than wisdom.
In a timocratic regime, the warrior class has taken over from the philosophers. Now the focus is on military glory, athletic competitions, honor, and reputation. These leaders respect wisdom somewhat. They were educated by philosopher kings, after all, but they value honor more. They're brave, they enforce discipline, they maintain order, but they're also more concerned with appearances than truth. The timocratic individual is similar. He's brave, disciplined, respectful of authority, but he's secretly starting to value wealth, which he hoards privately. He's ambitious for honor and victory. His reason has been demoted. Spirit rules his soul. How does timocracy degenerate into oligarchy? The timocratic leaders accumulate private wealth. Over generations, wealth becomes more important than honor. Those who have wealth gain power. Those without wealth lose power. Eventually, wealth becomes the qualification for ruling. You have oligarchy, rule by the wealthy few. In an oligarchy, there's a property requirement for political participation. The rich rule, the poor are excluded. The city divides into two hostile camps: the wealthy minority living in luxury, the poor majority struggling and resentful. The oligarchs are soft, having grown up in wealth without the discipline of philosophical or military training. They're fearful of their own poor, relying on hired soldiers rather than citizen warriors. The oligarchic individual is ruled by his appetites, specifically necessary appetites like the desire for wealth as a means to security and pleasure. He's frugal in some ways since he hoards wealth rather than spending it, but his frugality comes from appetite, not reason. He wants to accumulate, not to live wisely. He appears respectable, but is internally disordered. His better impulses, reason, and spirit have been subordinated to appetite. The transition from oligarchy to democracy is practically inevitable. The oligarchs raised in luxury become weak. The poor, doing all the actual work, become strong and resentful. Perhaps in war, the poor soldiers see their wealthy commanders are cowards. Eventually, the poor revolt, overthrow the oligarchs, and establish democracy, rule by the people.
In a democracy, everyone is free and equal. Everyone can say whatever they want. There are no strict rules about who should do what. You can pursue whatever lifestyle you prefer. No particular expertise is privileged. The doctor's opinion isn't worth more than the layman's. There's liberty and diversity. Different people live different ways. It sounds ideal. But Plato sees fatal flaws. Democratic freedom becomes excessive. There's no respect for authority, expertise, or order. Children disobey parents and show no respect. Students treat teachers as equals or inferiors. No one wants to be told what to do or accept any limits. Even animals, Plato jokes, walk around with a sense of entitlement, expecting humans to get out of their way. More seriously, democracy conflates freedom with license. The democratic citizen thinks doing whatever they want whenever they want is freedom. They have no unified purpose or direction. One day they drink and party, the next day they diet and exercise, then they dabble in philosophy, then they go into politics, then they pursue business. They're a patchwork of random desires with no rational governance. The democratic individual has a similar soul. All appetites are treated as equal. Necessary appetites, food, shelter, have no more claim than unnecessary ones, luxuries, idle pleasures. Even shameful appetites are indulged. What's shameful to one person is fine for another, according to democratic relativism. This person calls all desires equal and satisfies whichever is strongest at the moment. Their life has no order, no hierarchy, no rational plan. They're enslaved to the tyranny of passing whims while thinking they're free. Democracy's excessive freedom creates chaos. People become uncomfortable with this disorder. They want security, stability, someone strong who can restore order. A leader emerges, often from the wealthy class, who presents himself as a champion of the people, against corrupt elites. He promises to fix everything, restore greatness, protect the common people.
At first, he's popular. He redistributes some wealth, cancels debts, gives people what they want. But to maintain power, he needs bodyguards. He's made enemies. He needs to eliminate rivals. He accuses them of treason. He needs to keep people distracted. He starts wars. Gradually, he accumulates absolute power. Democracy has given birth to its opposite, tyranny, rule by one person for their own benefit. The tyrant maintains power through fear. He's surrounded by flatterers who tell him what he wants to hear, and mercenaries who have no loyalty to the city. He trusts no one because anyone could be a threat. He must constantly eliminate potential rivals. He impoverishes the city to pay his guards. He starts wars to keep people dependent on him. And despite appearing powerful, the tyrant is the most miserable person imaginable. Why? Because of his soul's condition. The tyrannical individual is ruled by lawless appetites, desires most people suppress even in dreams. He's like an addict, enslaved to his cravings. Nothing satisfies him. Every pleasure immediately generates desire for more. He's consumed by desire, fear, and paranoia. He's surrounded by flatterers, but has no real friends. How could he, when he trusts no one? He can't love anyone, because love requires valuing someone else's good, and he values only his own pleasure. He's isolated in the midst of his court. He's constantly anxious. Despite his power, he's like a prisoner who can never leave his palace for fear of being killed. He's enslaved by his own desires and fears. Every appetite must be satisfied immediately, but satisfaction never brings peace, just new appetites. Plato ranks the types of individuals from best to worst. The philosophical person, reason ruling, the timocratic person, spirit ruling, the oligarchic person, necessary appetites ruling, the democratic person, all appetites treated equally, and finally, the tyrannical person, lawless appetites ruling. Each is progressively more disordered and miserable.
This completes Plato's answer to Thrasymachus' challenge from Book 1. Thrasymachus claimed injustice is more profitable, that the perfectly unjust person who can get away with it is happier than the just person. The tyrant is this perfectly unjust person. He has absolute power to satisfy every whim. No one can punish him. He's beyond all law and restraint. And yet, he's the most miserable. His soul is diseased. He's enslaved by his appetites. He's friendless, fearful, never satisfied. The philosophical person, even if poor or suffering, maintains internal harmony and is genuinely happy. The tyrant, despite wealth and power, is in psychological hell. Justice is its own reward because it's health of the soul. Injustice is its own punishment because it's disease of the soul. This is true regardless of external consequences, rewards, or punishments. The tyrant proves it. He escapes all external punishment, but suffers the worst internal punishment, the condition of his own soul.